Hello and welcome to the 5 Essentials to Get the Most Out of Your Next Site Inspection. This is Terry Roberts with Destinations International, and we are the trade association for Convention and Visitors Bureaus. So we're really thrilled that you are joining us today for this webinar, and we'd like to start by thanking our sponsor, ePro Direct, and Chauncey Keller from ePro is with us, and Chauncey will have an opportunity to speak with you at the end of the webinar. But Chauncey, as always, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your great support from ePro Direct. Thank you. All right, and without further ado, let me jump right in and welcome Mark Crabb. Mark Crabb is the Vice President of Convention Sales and Services with the Greater Palm Springs CVB. And Mark, I know that I asked you to be part of this webinar because you and your team right now are currently involved in a big project to kind of completely revamp and inspire your site inspection process in a destination. But this is certainly an area of your expertise, having spent so many years in our industry, just recently joining Palm Springs, but before that, I know you were 9 years as the Chief Sales Officer up in Sonoma County, and before that, the Lee County Visitors and Convention Bureau in Fort Myers, and even before that in Anderson and in Madison County. You serve our organization well, both as a convention sales and marketing committee member, and then on our board at Destinations International accreditation program. So Mark, thank you for lending your insight and your expertise to today's webinar. We'll get started. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody.
Great to have you. All right, Mark. So our goal is to kind of hit the highlights, to hit the 5 essentials that you perceive as being most important to a really efficient site inspection process. I know that the site inspection always continues to be a topic of interest. It's such a critical time in the meeting sourcing process where planners sort of see their program begin to take shape in the destination and in the hotels and venues that they've selected. But it also kind of has a reputation for being a little inefficiently conducted sometimes. A lot of times it becomes a lot more about entertaining and selling than it does about really educating and showing. So I think you put together a great list of takeaways. So Mark, let's talk about this concept. So hopefully everyone won't think they've now logged into a Food Network webinar, but we talked a lot about why the preparation of a site inspection is a lot like this French cooking term, which is mise en place. And mise en place is really a French cooking term to say before a cook starts, they have all of their ingredients measured out, cut, peeled, sliced, graded before they start the process. Like even the pans are prepared, the mixing bowls, the tools, everything's set out. And this is a technique that chefs employ to assemble meals both quickly and effortlessly. So Mark, how would you take this analogy, this mise en place, and apply it to your philosophy of the site inspection in a destination?
Well, as the DMO, we're basically your sous chef. We want to make sure that we have everything in place, but it takes great preparation prior to you ever getting or arriving to our destination. So we want to make sure the DMO is your one-stop shop. So we want to make sure we're walking you through from start to finish any of the questions you might have, or maybe the opportunities of off-site, any intelligence of the destination. Very important to get that process ahead of the game and get it done before you ever walk off the plane or out of your car when you come to the destination. And I always like to say that, you know, if we can get all the ingredients needed in place, it's going to make your site inspections so much more seamless and so much more beneficial, because we know time is money, and we want to make sure that you're spending the best time and seeing what you need to see so you can make the right decisions.
Pretty good analogy, I think, Mark. So I know that you've outlined these 5 essentials, but before we get to that, I know that you kind of have an overall umbrella of this idea of collaboration, that essential to the site inspection, first and foremost, is bringing not only the right people, but the right places together. So I do, before I let you kind of answer your thoughts on collaboration, I do want to remind everyone, I forgot to do this in the beginning, that Elaine and Kate from Destinations International are monitoring our question board. So put in your questions, your thoughts, your comments as we go across, and then Mark will be sure to get to those. So Mark, talk about this whole idea of what a collaborative effort the site inspection really is.
What we'd like to do is, as our sales team and our sales managers then pass the information on to our destination services people, we want to make sure that we've got the right pieces, the right places, and destination partners in place so that we can make sure that we're planning in the most effective way you can have your site when you get here. We want to make sure that we've got collaboration amongst obviously our partners, but anything that's going to be happening with, we want to make sure dietary needs might need to be, figured out. We need to make sure we look at your schedules, what works best for you, the time element that you have. It's really making sure our venues and everything are in place and working together. We want to make sure that there's not a lot of overlap. We don't want you to go and have a lunch and then turn around and you're doing smoothies at the next one. We want to make sure that you're seeing what you need to see, you're asking the questions that you need to ask, and you're getting your answers you need before and then when you walk away, you are prepared to either make a decision or even come back with more questions if I'm hoping we've stirred enough interest that there's some ideas that you want to even pursue further. And that's very important because we want to make sure, it's funny, back to the chef thing, though we are making sure we've got all the ingredients in place, it doesn't mean that we can't be flexible. So all of a sudden, if we need to throw a dessert in there at the last minute, we've got ways to do that. But just being prepared with everything, it just gives us that just a little easier way to move forward on some maybe changes that might happen at a drop of a hat. So we want to be prepared to be flexible, but we want to make sure everything's in place. And that collaboration with us, our partners, and you, we make sure that it's ready when you're going.
Okay, Mark, so I know you kind of started with your number one suggestion is that really a planner should never go it alone, right? That there may be planners on our call today who are not familiar with the services that convention and visitors bureaus provide. And I think if there's one area where we reign, if there's one area where a good person at the helm of this is a CVB, it would be this site inspection. So specifically, Mark, could you cover off on what the CVB does to facilitate a site inspection in a destination?
Sure. We are your destination expert. And remember, we can find the answers for you that maybe, and I don't ever want to knock the hotels. They do understand the destination in a lot of ways, but we have maybe partners that they don't know about that have some unique venues or an off-site that might be different or a restaurant that could really hold some of your groups or special, if you do some special activities, we've got those in our back pocket. But when it comes to assisting with transportation, we can help you air or ground. We can get you here. We'll set it all up. We'll make it fit your needs. We'll set it up for your schedule. We want to make sure we have a cohesive itinerary that flows naturally. We don't want to have you driving in a car up and down, out and about. We want to make sure it flows well, it's effective and efficient. We certainly, if something would come up, we want to make sure we confirm appointments. Everything is in paper. We actually will give you a written itinerary with all the specs, all the information you need before you even get here. So, and then if we have a change, we can quickly make accommodations for you if something happens. But again, we're tying these community knowledge, this knowledge of our destination, and the intelligence to set this meeting apart. We want to make sure that when you come here, everybody's on board, they understand what your needs are, and you walk through and you get the sense that, wow, they really know what I'm looking for.
Excellent. So, you know, each destination's so different. So even just the flow, I always think about just the logistics of what should I see first and what's the most efficient routing. This is just so much time that can be saved. So thank you for pointing all that out. Number 2 up, Mark, I know that nothing eats up time like a site inspection. It seems like they're always running late, you're always running out of time, and it does require some prioritization on the part of the planner. So what have you seen essential for planners to put in place to maximize efficiency?
Well, the information that you feed us is really important, because we want to make sure if you've got a certain way you set up your meal function, or if you set up your meeting function, or if there's an offsite that has a certain twist that you guys need, or if there's special needs that you have, we need to know that firsthand, so that we want to put first things first. So don't limit assumptions and test. We want you to test our creativity. But the more information you can give us, we can certainly have demonstrations set up for you before when you get here, you can see pictures or testimonials. I think it's really important that we want to show you what we can do instead of, yes, you want to come in and depending if there's a group already in house and they want to help you picture what it could look like, but they should be able to show you, not tell you what is going on and how they're going to make your meeting set apart. And it's going to make your clients really happy that they decided to choose that destination.
Yeah, the other thing I see happen, Mark, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but oftentimes you'll see a site inspection kind of lose focus as different properties start to focus maybe on a new renovation in the spa, or perhaps some new dining facilities, and a lot of time gets spent there, and so they don't really get into the meat of the ballroom or a very complicated AV program, and they're very concerned. Would you suggest that planners actually provide a list of priorities, like what's most important?
Yeah, that is very helpful. And again, we will turn around and share that information with the partners that will be coming and showing you. So and the neat thing about that, it helps them generate some creativity. So when you're there, they may have some really good ideas or have done other events that would go, oh, we just did this event maybe 6 months ago and it was very successful. I think this fits your needs. So whatever you need as a priority, please put that in writing to us so that we're prepared to share with our partners. And I think it'll make the site just so much more effective.
Excellent. So let's go to your tip number 3, which is, and you briefly touched on this, but I know you want to take a deeper dive, which is sort of this whole idea of over communicating up front. So Mark, why doesn't it make sense to kind of wait until you get into the destination to sit down and really talk specifics? I hear all the time from hotel and CVB salespeople, well, the planner just really doesn't want to go into the details ahead of time. They just kind of want to know rates, dates, and space. Can we do it? Can we not? And then they want to talk details once they're in the destination. Why is that not a good idea?
Well, with that, there's no preparation for the partners or ourselves to really give you the experience you should have on the site. We want to make sure that it's all organized and outlined for you prior to you getting there. Now, that doesn't mean we can't be flexible, because I think that's really important, but we need to know your demographics. We need to know, should I show them there's some really cool rock climbing, but then all of a sudden you've got octogenarians that are your clients. So we don't, that mean that they don't climb rocks and do stuff outdoors and things like that, but we want to be very cognizant of the group and your clientele that's coming to the destination. So any of those things prior to, it's just helpful to make sure that we're giving you the best and most information you need so you can make the right decision.
And then again, taking it that deeper dive, right? Like talking about what is the organization all about? What are the specific meeting objectives? Like, is this one in which you really need to focus and keep everybody, more internal because it's very education in nature, or is this more, is it more geared towards recreation and reward and an opportunity to socialize and network? And what about this whole idea of concession lists? Because I know that often this becomes a stumbling block. Would you suggest that planners actually divide their session list maybe into a nice to have or a need to have? How would that be helpful?
Yeah, if you can rank what's very important for your group prior to, and I think that, again, that's perfect. That's, that when you can prioritize the key things that you need to get from your meeting, your outing, whatever it is you're looking for from this event, it just helps us prepare better. And I think that open line of communication, we cannot over communicate enough. And so we want to make sure when my destination services people is like working with you on this, they want to know all these needs. They need to know all these and what's your priorities on those. So if you can rank them, fabulous. That really gives us an insight of what you're looking for. Then it can help us also be creative down the road when you get here of, we knew this was a concern, this was a priority, we want to make sure this is what we think is a good solution.
Excellent. So, Mark, for your tip number 4, I know that you mentioned to me as we were putting this together that a lot of times a significant amount of time is spent kind of reinventing or recreating the wheel. What are your suggestions for planners who might not want to do that and want to be able to tap into some people that are already in the know?
Well, we're always happy to either give you references of groups or people that had come here and have, had their events. We're happy to share that with people. Obviously, you want to tap into your peer groups. If you know someone who's booked a piece of business here and you reach out to them, please do. Ask our CVBs and hotels and similar groups who privileged met here. We're happy to share that information. We're not hiding anything. So, and then if you need help with maybe a DMC, we can also help you with that. So we can even give you them as a reference of some of the things they've done. You know what I mean? So you've got opportunities to take a look at even social media today, pictures of events that have been hosted here. We're going to be doing more and more on our website to show some of the things that we can do and or things that your guests can do when they're here to hopefully help entice them and maybe even grow the attendance builders and really make sure that you get a great turnout for your meeting. So yeah, please feel free to use this. We are a reference. We're not hiding anything. We want to make sure that you see everything you might need to see. And if we can, get you in touch with another planner that booked a piece of business, we're happy to share that with you.
Yeah, I think it's always cool to kind of have curated information, right? Like you could almost think of the destination being this museum, if you will, of all these past events, and that you can really tap into that. I know planners are getting really savvy too, and not just looking at direct sales material, but heading to sites like Instagram and TripAdvisor to really dig into, what are meeting attendees and even leisure visitors having to say about the destination and about the hotels they're considering.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. All right, up next, what about, I don't know. I think the site inspection does feel like it's heavily slated kind of for hospitality and entertainment. Do you think that, Mark, is kind of what might present some more or prevent some more deeper discussion of obstacles during the site? And what do you think should be discussed during the site inspection beyond just the program specifications?
Well, this is a business transaction that you are working with. Yes, we're going to put our best foot forward. Yes, we want to show you a good time, but we also want to make sure that you understand that it's business, and it's business that you are taking out of your busy schedule to make sure that you're getting the information. So again, if this is one of those hard questions, those concerns that you have before you get here, help us understand that. Again, back to that communication tool, but we want to make sure that if we need to have the, the revenue manager, the CSM, the people that are going to be the decision makers that can answer your questions. Let's make sure we get them in the room with you. If that's very important, let's plan that every stop that we make, you've got those people, the AD guys, the whatever it takes that you might have, that I need to talk to them because this is very important to us. So let's make sure that we're talking about that. Yes, those are the hard questions to ask, but those are so important to you and how you can then turn around and make a good decision. So please don't be afraid to ask the hard stuff. But if you can do it prior, so we're preparing for that and we're preparing our partners for that, it just makes it so much better. And then there's no surprises.
Yeah, and I mean, this sometimes even backs up to planners putting in their RFP questions or necessary items regarding attrition and cancellation and food and beverage minimums, because a lot of times this stuff does not get discussed in the request for proposal, and it all starts to peel out or to seep out when the contracts actually start to get put together. And by that time, you're so far down the road that it doesn't allow for the greatest opportunity to really, put those things together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if we know ahead of time that there may be something that you need for, and here's the great thing about a DMO in some cases, and I don't know if it's true everywhere, but if there's all of a sudden a transportation need or something that you didn't think about, and there might be an opportunity for some maybe incentive or things like that that the DMO can help you with, actually, with that transportation or open reception or something, that we can help you with that. That, we're happy to talk to you about those things if it's a need.
Great. Well, Mark, I think you've hit some points of interest because our question board is filling up. So I think this concept of mise en place kind of resonated with people and got some thinking. So what I'd like to do, if I could, is ask anyone. We have quite a few questions in the question board, but if you have not put your question in, now's the time. Go ahead and put it in. Elaine and Kate, I know you're filtering through those to put together some questions. And I'll just turn to our sponsor quickly. I'd like to introduce you again to Chauncey Keller with ePro Direct, and she's a great supporter not only of Destinations International, but empowerMINT.com, which is our web portal where you can find 155 plus convention and visitors bureaus who are vested in the meetings market. So Chauncey, I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself. I know that many of folks will ask this question, so I'm going to say it before we turn to you, is that those of you who are looking for your CMP credit, you will get that next week along with a link to this recording to share with anyone you would like. So please check your spam because unfortunately it often lands there. So we'll compile some questions and we'll turn to Chauncey to say hello.
Thank you so much. What a fun way to spend a Thursday afternoon with you guys. Hey, Chauncey Keller with ePro Direct, a hospitality marketing company, as well as wanted to tell you guys about Booking Community very briefly. This is an awesome new member benefit. So for not only for associations and nonprofits and corporations and actually DMOs and CDBs, Booking Community is private member access to hotel rate over 70% off of anything that you would find online. So it generates a new member benefit. It's a revenue producer because you all receive a part of the revenue. And we have just seen association after association and corporation after corporation be thrilled with Booking Community because it is a no risk, high reward, new member benefit and new revenue generator. And so I will be sending you guys out some information. I welcome you to sign up. It's completely free. It takes 3 seconds to sign up and check it out for yourselves. And then if it makes sense, roll it out to your association or corporation. And I do want to mention this has nothing to do with groups and convention business. So there is no problem with any overlay there. So Chauncey Keller with ePro Direct and Booking Community, and you guys will be receiving more information from me. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Chauncey. Appreciate that. All right, should I turn to Elaine first? Elaine, I know you have some questions for Mark, so you want to begin?
Yes, absolutely. Great job. Thank you, Mark. So just a few different types of questions to address them. One might just be, Mark, going back to the very beginning of today's webinar, just to have some planners understand sometimes the different structure of different CVBs, who might be handling the site inspection. So the question had been that the comment that might be handed over to someone else from the sales. Does the sales manager stay involved, or how does that? I know it's different everywhere, but just give a little feel for how that might work.
Sure. So what we do here is our sales manager will then work with the planner and then introduce the person who is what we have a destination services team that will do our site team inspection. So we want to make sure that there's a nice handoff and an understanding of questions answered. They'll work together, actually. They'll actually do a conference call with them and go through the process, ask those, those important questions about what they're looking for, all those things that open communication that we just talked about, the collaboration. What are your needs? Give us your priorities. Give us your ranking of what's important, what you need to see. Obviously, there'll be a certain number of hotels that you're thinking about you want to see, but then we may offer a couple other options if we think this might even fit better or be another option. We always want to open up those opportunities if they arise. So we try to make sure that it's seamless and you're working still with your manager, okay? We understand that relationship is very crucial, but we also want to make sure that you know that another person, very professional, will be taking care of your site. And matter of fact, in many cases, that's the person who will meet and greet you when you come. Now, if the sales manager's in town, because we do have remotes, but if we have our in-town or in-house planners, chances are really good you're going to be with them as well. But we want to make sure that if our remotes are setting up a site, that you feel comfortable with our destination services team and that you have a person and a point of contact that you will then be working with throughout that whole site inspection.
Yeah, that's a really good. Yeah, that's a good question. That was Brittany that asked that. And Brittany, I think you would find Mark's kind of speaking to his setup in Palm Springs, but I think that almost every CVB has some combination of sales and or services involved in a site. So it's a really good question for you to clarify, who will be on the ground with you, and if that is not the salesperson that you've been working with, how is all that communication transferred between the two?
Yeah, because a lot of the information you share, the booking of your flights, your hotel, and your food, your meals, all the things you'll be doing, that will be coming from the destination services professional.
All right. So, Elaine, I'm going to kind of try to group. I know I could see you talking to Henry. I could see you talking to Henry Gold here. And Mark, let me see if I can kind of put these together, because Henry has made some comments and then kind of asked some questions, right? So his first comment is that he finds that a lot of times when he puts must-haves, when I was talking about concessions and must-haves, he finds that he puts must-haves into the RFP, but then they kind of get ignored. So he is wondering, first of all, if you have a comment about that, and then second of all, what would your advice be? Do you think that he needs to add, don't respond to the RFP if you cannot in fact meet one of our must-haves? That's a really good question, Henry.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that I think is so important in that initial contact, that when we make that conversation and we talk, and maybe this is the first point of contact is when with your sales manager, walk through that very carefully and see if there's any concerns and the must-haves that have to be shared with our partners. I think it's very important, because in turn, if we know some of our partners cannot fulfill those must-haves, then we don't want to waste your time of taking you to that property. But if it's clear up front that they can handle that and they know your must-have, then let's move forward with it. But I think we can't over communicate enough before you get here, because I think that's so important, because I know it seems like a waste of time once you're here and they didn't read the RFP. We want to make sure that's clear up front. And I think that's a great question. That's a great question. But again, back to collaboration and communication. Let us make sure we're getting that information out.
Okay, Henry had another kind of a hard one for you, Elaine. I'm just going to jump in here and continue on Henry, and then I'll go back to you. But so I know this happens for many meeting planners, Mark, and it's probably a little bit beyond the scope of the site, but I still think it's a really good question. Henry asks, how does he as a planner deal with a hotel that begins after he's confirmed his group block, advertises rates that are substantially below his contracted group rate?
That's a great question.
Right? It's a good question, Henry.
I'm not a hotelier. I don't know why they do that.
Well, they can build it into Henry can build that into the contract, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
aren't you seeing that, Mark, get built into contracts in which that over these dates, you know, that the hotel, especially if you're holding a significant room block in the hotel, Mark, have you seen contracts that say that over these dates, because of, you know, my block, that you will not advertise rates lower?
You know, it's, you know,
I know Henry's honest today.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and that's good. But it's funny because I'm thinking, why would you do that? And I'm not a hotelier, okay? To me, that just adds to frustration and confusion. But in the long run, you're hoping that they've thought that through. And you know, and that's a great question to have when you're with your hotel and when you're going and talking to the partners. I think that's open and honest, and it's just being transparent. And I think that's really important for them to make that, you know, if that's a concern, bring it up. You know, I think sometimes you got to hold the hotel's feet to the fire a little bit on some of these issues.
Yeah, that's great. Elaine, any additional questions for Mark?
Yeah, we're just getting a lot of good feedback in, which is great, off that question. So maybe that's our next webinar for one topic.
There we go.
Yeah.
Let's bring. There you go. Now you can do fodder for more talks. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
But and this
Henry,
last one.
Henry, I want you to reach out afterwards. Maybe you can be our next panelist.
There you go.
He said he has it in some contracts.
Yeah.
So just the last one, kind of a fun one, Mark, really, and it's very, it can be very specific, but if you had any, you know, someone was curious about what kind of amenities do you suggest to give to meeting planners when they come in for site inspections? Are there any kind of, what are your favorite amenities or best practices possibly? I know it can be different for everyone, but.
It sure can. And it's funny, this is a hot topic for our team. And it's interesting because we know then the hotels usually have something for each, you know, from each one of them to give and everything. But what we are planning on doing now, because we've talked about it, is that we know that we just can't give them a bunch of stuff and they got to figure out a way to get it home. Okay. What we want to do is once the site is done, we've had a good site, people gotten what they needed, they talked, we want to follow up and send it to them and thank them. And what we like to do, we love to give away, if we can, things that were locally produced. I think that's really important. I mean, how many water bottles do you need? How many? I mean, don't get me wrong, we'll have water bottles for you because it can get hot and dry here. So we'll make sure you have plenty of water when you're here. But I think once you get to know the planner and you sense they may be a coffee lover, well, I'm going to give them local coffee. They may love, something sweet. Well, we're going to send you some of our Brandini, coffee. It's going to be incredible, but it's a thank you for their time and effort to come and look at our destination. And we feel like also, why are they going home with a bunch of stuff in their hands when it's much easier to ship it to them, have it delivered to their office or their home, and they can enjoy it at their leisure?
That's great. Good, really good ideas and points. Elaine, maybe you can ask Allison's last question, and then we'll conclude for today.
Sure. That sounds great. I was just getting ready to answer Allison, but she asked, Mark, how would you research rates for a property that is not open yet? So it's contracting and construction phase. What are conversations during a hard hat tour? How do you deal, or have you dealt with that?
Yeah. Here's a funny thing. We just opened the Kimpton in December, and it's the first hotel that's been built in the last 5 years here. So, I mean, there's been obviously a lot of renovations and things like that, but when it's from start to, a brand new property, we want to make sure that, and in some cases, they may not even have a sales manager on site yet. We're working with corporate but we can do some legwork for you. That would be, we'd be happy to help you with that as much as we can, and make sure that at least we can get the right person that can hopefully discuss and make those decisions. Let us be your legs on that and see if we can help you with that. I know that can be very frustrating. And the funny thing is we have now 4 more hotels that are getting ready to be built. And so we may run into that. And so we want to make sure we're prepared to be able to answer that and help the planners through that phase.
That's great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Elaine and Kate, for helping guide and field questions and help people that were looking for their logons and everything. Mark, thank you for being a great panelist, for hopefully opening up some thought-provoking ideas about how planners can better prepare, mise en place, if they will, for their next site, and hopefully involve the experts from their destination convention and visitors bureaus to help make the process a little more seamless, and maybe guide them through taking advantage of some destination historical information, so they're not, again, recreating the wheel. So Mark, thank you so much on behalf of Destinations International. We will not have a May webinar. I know many of you are staying in touch with us on a regular basis. We are dark in May. We'll have a June webinar. We'll be sending a follow-up email, and you will also, again, receive your CMP credit next week. Please make sure that you check your spam. If for any reason you don't get it, you have my contact information, Terry Roberts at destinationsinternational.org. I'll make sure that it gets to you as well. Thanks, everyone, and have a really great day.